Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Kings and Generals episode 6. This is Vegeta vs. Granolah. Appears to be round 3 now. New chapter dropped yesterday at time of recording. And I am King Cold.
I am General Blue.
And we are going to discuss the new chapter. It's going to be very spoiler heavy because there's a few points I do want to talk about. So, I think how the chapter starts off, Granolah's beating the crap out of Vegeta, and Vegeta fans will complain all they want, but I think the dialogue in this chapter is a little more important than the actual, fighting this time around.
I can agree with that. The fight is kind of straightforward. It's sort of what we've been seeing in Super up until this point when Goku and Vegeta are trying to 2v1 an opponent, but it's more the way in which they're presenting themselves to the opponent that is really making this one a little bit more unique.
I don't know if this is me being unfair. I don't think Toritaru is good at doing action scenes for the fights in Super. I like his manga art a lot, but I feel this chapter, the action felt very generic. It felt like generic Dragon Ball, like stuff you'd see in the filler.
I do
At
like...
least
This is skipping ahead a little bit, but I do like the point where Granolah has Vegeta, pinned down and he fires point blank. That's the only real time that's happened before, I think, was maybe Turles and Tree of Might, and I guess the future androids versus future Gohan, but that straight up killed future Gohan, so that's a bit of an outlier.
Yeah. No, I do like that. After watching the Ultra Ego thing or whatever it was fight a little bit more, I like it a teeny bit more, but still not a lot. I think I need to see it more and need to see it trained more for this to grow on me. But one thing I'll say is I like that when Goku joins the fight, Vegeta kicks him. And yes, I am aware there was a reference to when Vegeta got kicked by 18. I saw a bunch of people. They were like, "Oh my god, that's so cool!" It's like, yeah, I get it. It's a all right. But I do like that Vegeta is trying to act like Majin Vegeta in this chapter. He even he's acting all tough guy and I don't need you, Kakarot, you annoy me and all that stuff. But what's cool is Goku kind of calls him on his shit. He's like, "Are you really trying to go with that old attitude again?" And it's something that was actually pretty interesting because I don't think I've ever seen. Because we've seen Goku call people an attitude before. Usually in Tournament of Power, I think. I don't remember too well, but I really liked that because as that chapter went on, Vegeta was really trying to use this Ultra Ego thing as this bloodthirsty warrior, but it wasn't working. So it kind of leads me to a question of what's going to happen here to Vegeta.
Yeah, he was mentioning toward the end of the chapter that it seemed like he had a conversation with Beerus where the idea was to use the ego form in such a way that it was bloodthirsty, and that would be the biggest power boost, but that just didn't seem to work given the situation. I will also say that there's one other parallel I think a lot of people have missed, and that is, since the whole Vegeta kicking Goku's arm thing was supposed to be a mirror of his fight with 18, but Goku saving Vegeta when Granolah had him, I think he was choking him or he had him point blank and he was going to blast him, one of those two. That was also a mirror of when Vegeta saved Goku against Androids 19 and Metacooler, so that's sort of the duality in that regard as well.
Oh, see, I was more focused on the "Don't Die" Vegeta line from the Buu saga. I actually didn't see that. That's pretty cool. Like I said, the artwork in the manga has always been good. I just think the action at times is a little lackluster.
That's definitely true. I know that when it was early in the Moro arc, a lot of people were commenting on how some of the specific fights, just kind of the filler pages, I guess, where they're swinging attacks, they more or less trace them from each other in order to extend the chapters a little bit. And I do agree with that. I think that the manga fight scenes are... It can be a little finicky to get right because just doing manga fights in general isn't necessarily the best medium for a long, drawn-out, or over-the-top fight scene, but I do kind of agree that they could be done a little bit better.
Yeah, but I think the biggest point, and this is the big thing that I'm I'm trying not to talk about right now. So I do like when Granolah falls into the city, and you see all the weird alien people. I forgot their names. They're like freaking out. They're like, "Oh my god, no way!" And he like remembers his stress of when the Saiyans invaded. I actually like that because I'm not one for like mental issues in Dragon Balls. I'd be like, "Oh, characters have PTSD," but I think this is the only time where we actually see a character look like they do have a stress disorder from their invasion, because he did survive the Saiyan invasion. So that was actually kind of cool. I was like, "Oh, that was different," because I don't think we've ever seen a villain, have a tragic past in Dragon Ball. Maybe Baby, but Baby kind of becomes a rampaging hypocrite, so it's like,
Yeah, Granolah is kind of just the super equivalent of Baby in many ways. At least that's what it seemed like to some extent with the hatred of the Saiyans, but they're doing enough to make them distinct from each other. I do think that when the fight got into the city, that kind of goes along with what I was saying a little bit in the last two chapters about how Vegeta was sort of goading Granolah in such a way that... Well, my original thought was Vegeta was going to destroy the city ruins in order to, like, really, I guess, mess with him mentally. This was not quite what I thought, but still in the right ballpark, I guess, because Granolah is seeing that as the fight progresses, it does end up doing damage to the structures, and the few stragglers left around, he doesn't want to hurt them or traumatize them the way, like, what happened to him when he was younger.
Oh yeah, I gotta say, Granola's design has really grown on me. So now that he lost the eye patch, I'm actually liking him a lot more. It's like, okay, I like this character's look a lot more. I like his coat, I like his hair, his face. He doesn't have the same face syndrome like some of the Dragon Ball Super characters do. Like some of the Dragon Ball characters do, actually, like Goku, Tien, and Krillin, all have the same face. Stuff like that. I really, what's weird? I know why he cut his long hair, because it was like supposed to represent him growing to get stronger on that wish. But I liked it when he had the long hair too. Excuse me. But design wise, I think Granolah has become one of my favorites. Not like top 5, but he's definitely getting there, because it's just cool design.
Yeah, his design's pretty good.
So the chapter ending is, I think, the biggest plot twist we've gotten in Super.
At least for a long while, definitely.
Yeah. So there are people talking about how this may create a plot hole, because it's supposed to be... Now, I don't remember the exact age years in Dragon Ball. It's like age 730 or something when Planet Vegeta got destroyed. Or something like that. All we know, it was a long time ago. And so the Namekian, I forget his name, it's like begins with an M, but the Namekian says Bardock saved Granolah, right? That he saved the Saiyans from he let them survive or something. And that there are people saying, "Oh, how is this possible? Shouldn't Bardock be dead by that point?" And it's like, no. If there was a Saiyan invasion, it could have happened before the destruction of Planet Vegeta.
Exactly.
One thing I'm curious about, though, is... So I don't think... So as far as the Saiyans' backstories go, and this does not include Goku and Vegeta, Raditz or Nappa, the actual Saiyans, the race of people, besides a tidbit in the Broly movie and some filler, I don't think we've seen their lifestyle. We don't know much about the actual Saiyans of Planet Vegeta besides, Vegeta was the king, Bardock was Goku's dad, and then there was Broly in them. The rest of the common grunt work Saiyans, I don't think we've ever heard about, and I kind of hope we hear more about... if there's a big Bardock flashback, I hope he explains how the Saiyans act.
That would definitely be interesting, and it could shed some light on them, because up until this point, the only real information we've gotten, even including filler, was that the Saiyans used to be pretty primitive people, still kind of savage, but not quite genocidal, just like old barbarians. And because they had higher battle powers than most common aliens, that's why the Cold Family Army gave them different weapons and materials so that they could be used as basically just an army for hire, but without even really needing to pay them, because they could, Frieza and Cold could still destroy them anyway. And that's what we see in the main series, is just how they go around conquering planets. That's all we're really told about them early in Z, and we see flashbacks of that. But after that, you know, they died because Frieza feared the Super Saiyan or whatever, and then that we haven't really gotten much of any more information since, because I guess going too far back in their history would be kind of pointless, but at least seeing how some of them acted, like, during their time as mercenaries might be a little more interesting to actually flesh out the characters, yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I know there's the whole Super Saiyan God Legend, the Yamoshi guy. I'm fine, you know, there's that, but that's super far back. I'm talking about, like, I would love to see the Saiyans alive and get some more story. I don't know if we will, but if we get, like, a little bit of a hint of how the Saiyans were when Bardock and King Vegeta were alive, outside of just being Frieza's grunties, I think that would make me appreciate the Saiyan race a lot more, because, like, outside of it, they feel kind of like the general Saiyan feels kind of like a generic barbarian just in space. And it's like, all right, well.
Yeah, basically.
Ooh. But other than that, I think it's very interesting that Bardock saved them, because Bardock was already acting pretty different in the Broly movie. He was like, I don't trust Frieza, we gotta do something. And we do see Bardock die in the Frieza movie, so maybe Bardock saving the Syrians, or however you say them, and them, was like one of his last acts on the Frieza Force, and then he rises up against Frieza, then he's, you know, we all know how he goes, he dies. Because people are thinking that this would make the Lord... I saw people saying, oh, does this make the Lord Chilled story canon? And I was like, no. Not in any way, does it? But, you know, you do you.
That was when they were chilled. They were Planet Plant at that time. That was supposed to be, like, centuries, probably even millennia before the main Dragon Ball continuity. So that doesn't... I don't think Bardock suddenly gained eternal life, and if he did, why'd it suddenly go away?
Yeah, well, I'm glad that the whole, like, Lord Chill thing isn't canon, because it has a very creepy, what's it called? Very strange innuendo that Bardock would have had to reproduce with those things to make Saiyans. So it's like, yeah, let's keep that away from the canon, please.
Yeah, that'd be highly questionable.
Yeah, like, I do like Bardock, mainly from Xenoverse 2 and stuff. Bardock is one of my favorite characters in Xenoverse 2. But I will say, I'm kind of glad he's not. Like, his depiction in Heroes and Xenoverse 2 and stuff, I'm glad it isn't in the canon, because it would be just not only would it be a nightmare story-wise, but it would just be very questionable and strange. It'd be like, okay, why is this here? But... there were people upset that Bardock was the one to save Granolah, and there's people saying it was predictable. To be honest, I didn't even think of something like that. It's not something I would have been thinking of.
I mean, when it comes to Survivor of the War type stories like this, the whole idea of, you know, no, they're not all evil, one of them actually saved us, that's a fairly common trope like we're seeing here, and... I don't know, there's kind of two sides to this. On the one hand, I definitely agree that this is not a bad plot point to use, because there was an entire planet of Saiyans. It's very unlikely that all of them would have been barbarian savages, so it does make sense if a few of them had, like, a reasonably good nature. But at the same time, it does feel a little weird that, oh, it just happens to be Goku's dad that was the good guy, even though Goku was only really good because of the bump on his head and stuff like that. So it's a bit contrived, but it's not like it's completely nonsensical or out of nowhere.
Yeah, they're not like, it's not like they're okay, so Dragon Ball's notorious for retcons. It's probably one of the most retcon series I've seen that just doesn't hard reboot. Like, DC and Marvel will hard reboot after a point. Dragon Ball hasn't. I think that's for the better, too, because I hate it when they reboot and tell the same story 100 times. But it's like, for Dragon Ball, I'm fine with retcons and changes if it adds more to the story, you know?
That's probably true. there have been a good number of retcons in Dragon Ball up until this point, but most of them have been somewhat minor or just in regards to power scaling. I think Bardock is substantial because he had an entire special showing how he was basically just a mercenary, and then after that point, they didn't really use him much outside of the video games just for general fanfare. I think it was the Dragon Ball Origins spin-off manga that started making him look a little bit more like a nice guy, because that introduced Goku's mother. And from that point on, they've just kind of been rolling in that direction, I guess because it's what more modern fans see. So, it's definitely kind of weird, because most old-school fans grew up with, like, seeing the special and his characterization through there. But it's interesting to note that technically this doesn't contradict the manga, and I actually wanted to bring this to... I mentioned this to one of the other admins not too long ago, but technically speaking, this is the first time in the manga, at least that's on screen, where Goku has been made aware of Bardock's existence, because the only times Bardock was really brought up in the show, like to any extent, was the first fight he had with Vegeta in the Saiyan saga, where Vegeta talks about how Bardock was the one who created the artificial moon, but that was more specific dubs of the anime. It wasn't a universal thing and not in the manga. And when Frieza first sees Goku, like right before Vegeta dies on planet Namek, Frieza has like a flashback to seeing Bardock standing outside the ship opposing him. That was actually the first time that Bardock appeared in any manga page. I think that actually came out after the Bardock special did, and there was like some thing where whoever wrote the special was actually kind of happy that they incorporated it into a manga page, but that was just Frieza thinking internally. It wasn't really a conversation he had with Goku at that point in time. So technically speaking, we've never really seen Goku be made aware of Bardock's existence or who he was as an individual in the manga before this point.
Really? I thought Goku knew about him from Frieza. I guess, yeah. Holy shit, I didn't... That's very interesting, because I wonder if Vegeta will say, Goku, that was your father. Because the Namekian recognized Goku. He said, why is he here? So, ooh, man, I wonder what they're going to do for the next chapter. Like, because last chapter was a little, it wasn't... I think it was one of the weaker chapters, in my opinion, as far as things went, because it was just Vegeta fighting and then ending with him on a cliffhanger of, like, is Vegeta gonna lose? Vegeta didn't really lose either. I don't think Vegeta really, like, lost this fight. He kind of, like, it was more interrupted and stopped before conclusion, and Goku kept interrupting. I also like that Goku, so... I do like Goku in this chapter, though, because one, here's this kind of, like, being addicted to Vegeta, which is much needed. But two, also, like, I really like that he was outsmarting the pressure point thing, because he did outsmart Hit's time skip, which was basically the same thing, but with time manipulation. So I feel like that's in character of Goku to, like, actually get something.
Goku can definitely figure out an opponent's fighting style based on how long he works with them. That is one thing that he always had a benefit for, and that's kind of why in a lot of the movies, and I guess a little bit the main continuity, but mostly the movies, you'll usually see like Vegeta and Piccolo rush at an opponent for a while and then get jobbed just for Goku to kind of adapt to that scenario. But other than that, going on with how Vegeta can discuss Bardock as a person, so Vegeta was like, I want to say he was maybe 5-ish years old when Planet Vegeta was destroyed. I don't fully remember, but when the Namekian says Bardock's name, Goku's looking, they have the mini thought bubbles there. Goku's like a question mark, like, oh, what? There's a Saiyan? Wonder who that could be. But Vegeta's got like that realization, just box with spikes in it. There was no symbol, but Vegeta's like, oh, you kidding me? I think I know who that is. Oh, this is interesting.
Yeah. Vegeta has always been, like, the expert of Saiyans and stuff in the series, so he should know who Goku's father is. Like, Vegeta seemed to be pretty well versed in the Saiyans for a lot of stuff. But I do hope that we now people are I don't know. There are some people expecting like this emotional thing from Goku, like that was my dad. Well, he never knew his dad, so that would be very strange if he acted that way. He's gonna be that guy.
I feel like Goku will have some kind of realization, but I mean, from Goku's perspective, he was raised by Grandpa Gohan, and then when Grandpa Gohan died, his family just became Bulma, Roshi, then Krillin, everybody. So, I mean, he might smirk a little bit thinking something like that, like thinking that his father was actually not that bad compared to other Saiyans, but I don't know if it's going to be some big emotional thing. That's probably not going to happen. Vegeta definitely should know about Bardock because, I mean, he rolled with Raditz for several decades in space, so I'm sure the conversation came up at some point.
Hey, you know my dad? Yes, Raditz, I know your dad. Yeah, he's cool. Okay, you know my dad's the king, right? Shut up, Vegeta.
Pretty much how it would have went.
Just picturing it now, like Raditz's perspective. But my big thing is like this chapter was a lot better than the last chapter, and I'm still pretty happy about that because it's like, whew, thank goodness, because last chapter to me felt like there could have been more done. But this one has definitely left a cliffhanger that a lot of people are going to be talking about probably throughout the entire month.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, people are kind of going to want to see where the conversation goes in the next chapter.
Yeah, well, it also means we can finally pick up on what the Heaters are doing for their plot line, and we can actually get some much-needed, answers on what the hell they're going to be doing. So I'm a little happy about that as well.
Yeah, they just kind of blinked out of existence for a little while.
Yeah, that last chapter, they're like, let's go get the Dragon Balls, and then they fucking dipped, and it's like, okay, weird. But it's whatever. I don't mind it. I definitely think that the Heaters hopefully do something interesting, and they please have Frieza show up soon. They have been mentioning Frieza for so long, and he hasn't done anything yet. Like nothing's happened yet with Frieza.
He did just kind of disappear after the Tournament of Power when this chapter is, it's not directly about him, but pretty much everything he was at least partially responsible for to almost completely responsible for.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it's funny because he's basically like the catalyst for all of Dragon Ball. Which is pretty funny. Technically, you want to get super technical, him and Beerus are the catalyst. Beerus told him to destroy Planet Vegeta, so he did. And that's where pretty much this entire plotline began. How this entire universe begins is the act of Frieza's genocide.
Yeah, pretty much the entire Dragon Ball continuity would have been noticeably different if Frieza didn't destroy the planet when he did. I guess if he destroyed it earlier before Goku would have gotten off the planet, then just, oh hey, Earth's in control of the Red Ribbon Army. Oh hey, here's some Saiyans. Get wrecked, scrubs. That's probably what would have happened from there, and then the future's just Frieza rules, I guess.
Yeah, Frieza rules completely uncontested.
Yeah, may as well. That's most likely what would have happened anyway. But, yeah, he kind of is the driving force for all of that just because of how the destruction of Planet Vegeta and Goku being sent to Earth affected everything. And it's just that this one in particular, he does have a direct stake in, because whereas the Cell Saga and Buu Sagas, for example, were just kind of happened as a chain reaction to the domino effect of events, this one is actually something he ordered the Saiyans to do, and he has been... Well, it's been stated that he interacted with the Heaters on some occasions and that they had, a level of fear toward him. So, yeah, it's safe to assume he's had many conversations with them and probably bossed them around for a few years before the destruction of Namek.
Oh, yeah, Frieza, what's funny, and I think I mentioned this earlier, is that Frieza, really is, still a dominant force in the Dragon Ball universe. It's... Hold on. Someone's texting me real quick. But yeah, he's still a big threat for the average Dragon Ball person, because if you only look at the Dragon Ball through the plot line, Goku and them will, he'll never be a threat to Goku and them, but like the average Joe in Dragon Ball's power level is like 5. And when this weird lizard guy that can point your planet out of existence shows up and kills everyone, it's like, oh yeah, that's weird.
Well, that's kind of the thing they were emphasizing in some of the movies, or the Revival of Frieza movie, and to some extent the Broly movie, is because like 98% of his army was obliterated by Vegeta, he had to just search for basically anybody that had a remotely good power level, and in the metrics of the Dragon Ball universe, a remotely good power level for a normal individual was like above the regular thousands, but even though he had hundreds and hundreds of troops when he invaded Earth in Revival of Frieza, the Z-Fighters, I mean, they got tired after a little while, but for the most part, they were able to, like, effortlessly dodge the attacks. They were able to mow some of them down pretty relentlessly. And then in the Broly movie, he sent Chilai and I'm blanking on the other dude's name, but just because they happened to sense a remotely viable power source on planet Vampa, where Broly wasn't even remotely close to what his limit was at that point, they had to investigate and try to recruit whoever was there.
Yeah, basically. Like, I'm still pretty, like, again, I'm still, like, I'll keep saying this. This chapter definitely left me more interested, because Dragon Ball has done some pretty insane plot twists. Like, Goku Black was probably one of the best plot twists in Super at the time. Just the reveal of it being an evil Goku was pretty wild. That's like the best one I can think of off the top of my head in the context of Dragon Ball Super. Frieza having multiple transformations was a great plot twist the series has since latched onto for almost every villain. Surprisingly, Jiren did not have transformations. Jiren was the embodiment of he's built different, bro.
Yeah, I noticed that Super is kind of straying away from transformations, at least in regards to the villains, because we really haven't seen that. I mean, I guess Moro absorbing 7-3, that sorta counts, but I don't like to think about that because that bogs down the rest of the story.
Oh god, yeah. Like, Zamasu fuses, and that's about it. Goku Black has Super Saiyan 1, 2, 3 in Rose. Now, he doesn't go Super Saiyan 3, but we know he can. And then he has Rose. He technically has Super Saiyan God too, but those are already established transformations. He doesn't need to, like, add this fucking asterisk. Like, I had this, like the Dragon Ball Heroes episode that came out before the manga chapter was fucking stupid. Oh my god. Okay, we'll talk about that for just a split second. So the Heroes chapter episode that dropped was, action-wise, really cool. Had some beautiful artwork, but you telling me Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Ultra Instinct style Gogeta was needed to beat a full power mutated Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black? That was so weird. It's like, what he had like Super Saiyan 3 hair with eyebrows. It looked pretty cool, but it was like, what am I looking at? It was like the embodiment of, like, what the fuck am I looking at, bro?
Yeah, power scaling in Heroes has always been highly suspect, to say the least. But, I mean, that's...
It's at least entertaining.
Yeah, and at least with the Super Saiyan Rose form, I mean, okay, they kind of just added another color for the sake of doing that, but I mean, in the context of the story, like, it's Goku who was body snatched by a Kai, so sure, he has a different transformation. That still kind of works. And yeah, those are really like the two outliers in that case.
Oh yeah, for real. But I am glad so far. Like Granolah himself didn't even go through a transformation. He just wished to be the strongest. He just became the strongest through his wish. And he's technically not even the strongest because he doesn't outpower Beerus. Goku and Vegeta have not only begun to figure out his fighting style and how he is, but they might be surpassing him soon as well. There's a lot of things that there's a lot of, like, conceptual errors with that wish that they even point out in universe. Which is like, oh, he just appeared in this moment in time, so that could be manipulated, all this stuff. But I'm glad Granolah hasn't gone through like a super Granolah transformation or anything like that.
I mean, it's technicalities and wording. It's one of the biggest tropes in fiction is just, oh, you make a wish to a genie, they find a way to twist it in like the worst possible sense. So I mean, with Granolah, it's he made a wish to be the strongest. Well, he was the strongest right then and there, but it's not like... It isn't exactly like his power just magically goes back up if somebody else surpasses him. No, I mean, I assume it's not going to work that way. If it does, it's going to be very difficult to write a way to get rid of him.
Oh yeah, for real. But other than that, I think the Granolah arc right now has definitely gotten better. It got a lot better because it's kind of shaky. It wasn't like the best arc Super was producing because it started off interestingly with focusing on Granolah, but I think it's because for me I think it's because the action isn't as interesting. Like the Moro arc had some good action, especially with Spirit Vision Fusion or whatever it was called, and then the whole push to Ultra Instinct thing that got like kind of soft retcon because Whis is like, okay, don't transform into Ultra Instinct, and then Goku has, Ultra Instinct Super Saiyan Blue now, which is a form that makes me cream because I wanna see more of that, bro.
I mean, it's a good idea, yeah, and if they're gonna introduce it, they may as well use more of it.
Well, like there are a lot of people saying it made sense, not sex. That was weird. Sense conceptually because it's like, well, Goku and Vegeta already have God forms. And, in the perfect world, their blue forms would just become the most powerful forms ever in the franchise. But whatever reason they have for writing it like this, due either time constraints, being forced to get a story out quickly, who knows, is the path we're getting. But I'm glad Super Saiyan Blue hasn't been completely canned because that's what it was looking like for a little while in the Moro arc. But now, and maybe with Ultra Ego, Vegeta might do a similar thing. I kind of hope so too, just so he still has his unique form from the Tournament of Power with the God Destruction form. That would be a cool way to appeal to fans who like all the forms. Because funny enough, that's what Heroes does. Oh, they want Super Saiyan 4? Okay, let's give it an updated form. Let's have it fight alongside Super Saiyan Blue. Just have them be equal, so there's no question and no arguing. Stuff like that. I like that. And I hope Super continues with, these Goku and Vegeta just constantly training these god level power forms, so that way there's never a case where they just instantly get it and then they're just instantly perfect and powerful, because that was something I didn't like in GT with Super Saiyan 4. He's like, oh, I'm just instantly mastered. Well, that's kind of lame.
Yeah, the whole idea of the transformations being completely outdated would be kind of nonsense, especially since they hyped up how much they meant at the beginning of Super. And I remember after Battle of Gods came out, everyone was talking about how, or there was some interview that apparently stated there's really no point for Goku to become Super Saiyan 2 or 3 anymore. He might just go to level 1 to assess an opponent's strength quickly before reaching a god form. And people were kind of disappointed by that because they invalidated just 2 of the Super Saiyan forms. We haven't really seen Red God to much of any extent unless it's stacked with Ultra Instinct. We saw it like 2 or 3 times briefly in the Tournament of Power, but only for a few minutes. So if they just got rid of the blue form altogether, that would be a real pain.
Yeah, granted, the Tournament of Power in the anime, they had Goku and Vegeta going Super Saiyan 1, 2, and 3. Well, yeah, mostly Super Saiyan 1 and 2 a lot in the anime, because they really wanted to they had them go blue a lot. They went blue a lot, Super Saiyan 1 and 2, and Goku went Super Saiyan 3 against Kefla and Kale. And I am glad that they did that for the fan service, but it also means not every character has to be a blue level threat in the tournament. Especially, it works so well in the Tournament of Power, but not in a scenario like that. You kind of have to have every threat. Like it was like when the androids showed up and they were already stronger than Super Saiyans. You kind of have to have it, or else there's no story being told.
Yeah, but realistically, Jiren was supposed to be the main threat for the Tournament of Power, but they also had the ideas of, Universe 6, the rematch with Hit, and it's understandable that the strongest competitors of some of the universes would be able to go toe-to-toe with Goku and Vegeta, but it also stands to reason that they shouldn't have to go all out for everybody they're fighting from the different universes. Realistically, even the strongest from another universe wouldn't be able to measure up to them just because of the experiences they've had.
Oh, 100%. And I am glad that there are still, going Super Saiyan to assess an opponent's perfectly fine, especially there are times where Goku doesn't even have to go Super Saiyan to beat an opponent anymore. And I do like that because it just shows how crazy strong Goku's base form is in Super. And I'm not that big of a power scale nutter, but it's just, to me, it's cool to see. I just like seeing that. Ultra Instinct Blue, though, like the 2 stacked, if they go through with that and make it super, super cool, and make it like Goku's pinnacle, I'd be pretty happy with it.
trying to see how they're going to work in the combination effect will definitely be interesting. The only thing I do kind of worry about is, since Granolah was able to handle Ultra Instinct stacked on Blue, you know, it makes sense for him since he did wish to surpass everybody, but I don't know how they're going to be able to use that going forward.
Well, I got a feeling with that wish, though, that since it was in a moment of time and not because he didn't wish to be the strongest of all time, he just wished to become the strongest. So Goku and Vegeta can surpass him. It leaves room for that. And who knows how Granolah is going to act now, revealing that Bart he was saved by a Saiyan. This race he hates so much.
It's going to be an interesting shift, and it's kind of like what I mentioned before, how his story and his fight with Vegeta sort of mirrored Trunks' fight with Cell. This one's a little more direct, though, whereas Trunks just kind of had to accept the fact that the androids of this timeline weren't completely evil like the ones of his timeline. This is like Granolah actually finding out that he was directly saved by a Saiyan, which is going to completely contrast with his worldview, whereas Trunks was just kind of like, alright, I'm sucking it up, but if you try to attack us, you're going down, which was leagues different.
Oh, yeah. One thing I think, I still really like when Vegeta was trying to, revert himself to Majin Vegeta to use the God power-up, and then Goku was straight up like, yeah, this isn't you. This, you can't do it. You're on your old, he's like, you're on this old attitude. Really, that whole panel. And then when Vegeta was saying, forgive me, Lord Beerus, I wasn't able to do it. I'm a novice. It's just I really hope we see more training for Vegeta now with this. I want to see him get super strong and beat Granolah, beat the Heats, whatever. This chapter just left a really good taste in my mouth compared to the last one, which was pretty lukewarm.
Yeah, the last one kind of ended on a bit of a sour note with the new form not really leading to much of anything, but the whole idea of he didn't really get a grasp of it now, I mean, that's kind of what the characters do. The reason Frieza lost in a revival of Frieza was because he couldn't stop himself from losing energy the longer he stayed in his golden form, but he was able to at least reasonably fix that problem in the Tournament of Power. When he lost there, it wasn't because he was getting fatigued, it was just because Jiren and Dispo, to some extent, were able to outspeed him or overpower him. You know, it's not uncommon that Vegeta can get more adept at this form, and if he ends up getting into a serious fight with the Heaters later, he's probably going to need it.
Oh, yeah. I gotta say, though, the Heaters, I'm glad we haven't seen them, because it leaves me to think what they're gonna do. Because there were some people saying, oh, they're gonna go overthrow Frieza. Are they, though? What if Frieza just starts clapping them, and then they grab them with the Dragon Balls to do something else and, stop Frieza? Seeing antagonists use the Dragon Balls always makes me happy. I love it because I'm pretty sure Baby used the Dragon Balls, right?
Baby used the Black Star Balls, yeah.
Yeah, Baby used the Black Star Balls. Frieza wanted to use Namek Dragon Balls. Vegeta wanted the Dragon Balls. All that shit. Zamasu used the Super Dragon Balls. Granolah used this new set of 2. I just love it when antagonists use the things the protagonists lean on as a crutch against them, because it's so nice in Dragon Ball to see. Oh, sorry, I smelled burning, and I realized it was a campfire from outside because my neighbor's having fire, so I got scared from it. I was like,
Oh, that could have been bad. But no,
oh, dude, it's just my house. Yeah, there's an inferno behind me. I'll handle it in a second.
That'd be a first. But the Heaters definitely seem like they're giving off the vibe that they cannot defeat Frieza, and they're aware of that. So what they do next, I don't know, but I guess they're probably going to use the Dragon Balls to some extent for the story.
Yeah, I really wish the Dragon Balls... Funny enough, I don't think the Dragon Balls are used enough at times, because it's they're used in every arc, yes, but I like it when, they're used against the heroes. When they're slow... I don't like the Black Star Balls and how they're implemented in GT. I think they're implemented really shittily, and the whole negative consequences of the Dragon Balls is that not being explained was bad. But the idea that there was consequences, if ever expanded upon again, or ever given chance to be shown again, would be cool.
I definitely agree with that. They're used to the extent of just... The story can more or less write themselves around this with how they take a long while to... Like, they take a year before they can be used again, and at least in early Dragon Ball, they were much harder to find because the characters couldn't fly around, but ever since Z, they were kind of used a lot just for resurrections, which sort of limited the potential that they had. So it's like they had to keep putting restrictions on Shenron's power. Like, I don't really understand how it was out of Shenron's power back in the Saiyan saga to just cause an asteroid to crash into Vegeta and Nappa's spaceships, but okay, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, man. The whole Bardock thing, though, really, and I'm still caught up on it, because it's like, what are we gonna see? What are they gonna do?
If anything, it's going to lead into some kind of flashback about Goku's family and just how they viewed the Cold Family occupation of Planet Vegeta, and maybe a little bit of life right before the takeover. I don't know for sure. That's just kind of speculating, but I kind of hope we see a bit more backstory on that, because that's, aside from very brief anime filler flashbacks in Z, we've never really seen the full extent of that.
Yeah, anything to show us more of the Saiyans that aren't just the big name brand ones, and how they lived or how they acted would always be appreciated. But I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover with this one. Also, okay, so like the 5 people who watch and listen, we've had delays, technical difficulties, and schedule lineup. So this episode's pretty late. Ideally, we would have had like 2 more before this, but oh well.
Yes, unfortunately, real life has kind of gotten in the way, but hey, we're still gonna keep trying this every so often.
Oh, yeah. Next, so hopefully, now, we did say this last episode that the chapter drops of timing, but next episode will be Pokemon. There's a lot I want to talk about Pokemon and stuff like that, especially the new Legends Arceus game. I'm hyped for that game.
Oh yeah, it should be a great time.
But I think this is a good spot to wrap up. I was King Cold.
And I was General Blue.
Thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
Have a good night, everybody.